Hello, women of the channel. I'm Jacquie Rives, your community leader, and welcome to another Woman of the Week. This week, I have the pleasure of talking with Lynn Swenson, Senior Director, Global Alliances with Pegasystems. Hi, Lynn. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. It is my pleasure, Jackie.
Well, I'm really excited to get to know you. And it's sort of fun that we're recording this because we're just coming off of Women of the Channel East, and I still have that adrenaline rushing and
Same.
very excited to get to just spend some time with you. So let's start off with those icebreaker questions.
Okay.
So, where do you live and where did you grow up if that's different?
Okay. I live, and this will be my fun fact as well, because it just
Oh,
needs to
okay.
be. I live in Fargo, North Dakota, and I was born and raised in this area in Moorhead, Minnesota. And yeah, I've had the opportunity to be able to achieve everything I have in my career from my nice little home spot, which is very cold right now, because that's always the next question.
Yes, it was. I was like, I wonder how cold it is there.
Yeah, we're going to be minus 20 this weekend.
Okay, so New York this week was pretty warm for you.
It absolutely was. It was lovely. I didn't even need gloves.
Well, amazing. All right, Lynn, let's talk about your career path and how you reached this amazing position at Pegasystems.
Oh gosh. Well, it's, probably isn't the usual career path for somebody that has spent 30 years working in tech and working in the government space. I actually came out of college with a degree in fashion merchandising, which is always funny after I give a technical presentation because someone will always ask. And I love sharing that. But I did start out as a buyer for a pretty large clothing store chain, and probably one of the best things I did very early on is realize and face the fact that I don't think I'm going to love doing this, even though I went to school for it, even though I've got a pretty, cool job that takes me to New York and doing a lot of interesting things. I didn't love it. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Truthfully, I went to a recruitment agency and they sent me to a job in computers. And I will tell you, I I grew up in the days when we had to go door to door selling
Mm.
magazines and raising money for our schools. And all I knew is I never want to be a salesperson. And when I went to college, we didn't even have computers. So I went to that job as a buyer. We barely used computers at all. So being sent to this opportunity to be in sales, which I'd never done, selling computers, which I was completely unfamiliar with, was definitely a step outside my zone. But very happy I said yes, because that has was job knocking on doors, selling Windows
Mm.
PCs, even before that, DOS PCs
Yes, yes.
is what eventually overcame a lot of my fears and got me to where I am now with Pega. So very glad I made that decision and
Oh, me are
didn't stray
too.
away.
That's a very cool background. I love when people share these, typical, but they're probably more common than people realize. These like paths that are not linear and going straight, from degree in the same line of field. I love it when people are sharing so that other, listeners know that, if the first path that you thought you were going on isn't what you want it to be, you have the power to make that different. So that's pretty awesome that you did that.
Absolutely. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And, just kind of saying yes at the start, even though I was really unsure that the impact that that's had on my life, I can't imagine if I went to school.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with that, I'm sure that you perhaps probably questioned your abilities and qualifications some. So how did you kind of overcome that challenge?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think, using the word question my abilities, I don't know if I really question them necessarily as really analyzed. If
Mm,
I understood what I had experience in and what I knew I could do and what I was unsure about, where I was unsure, it really came down to, well, do I have the people around me or the network around me or the enablement around me to ensure that I have at least the opportunity to succeed at doing this? And if I got to that point where I really felt that way, then the answer always had to be a yes. Yes. What do I have to do next? And that has played through my entire career. It's rare that I've said a no. Just, largely because it's all about not questioning, but figuring out what the answers would actually be in terms of who's around you to support you.
Yeah, no, I love that. It actually just brought me back to Jillian Mealy's opening keynote on day 2 when she asked people to raise their hand if they like to be uncomfortable, and I suspect that you were one that was like, "I do."
Yeah, bring it,
Yeah,
bring it, let's go.
yeah, yeah. I love
Much to
that.
the dismay of my team sometimes, but
Yeah, but
they're coming
actually,
along with me.
I'm glad you brought up your team because that was the other thing I kind of want to make sure that our listeners heard was, that you surround yourself with a team who, whereas you might not have that technical knowledge or the knowledge of the product or whatever, you're bringing in, you know, a capable team because we just can't know everything
Yeah,
and we have to lean on them.
that is exactly it. I am only as successful as the people on my team, and I will say a little shout out to my team. They are the best I've worked with in my career. I'm really fortunate.
I love that. That's a great shout out. Well, that actually brings me to my next question. What made you want to be in a leadership position?
I love this question. So I came to Pega via Salesforce for a long time and Microsoft
Mm,
for a much longer time before that, and held a variety of roles, always in the government space, always working with partners and working with clients. And as Pega reached out to me and I started to think about where I'm at in my career, at that time I was like, I if I make a change, I want this to be my last change. I'd like to stay at this company, have an impact, and hopefully sail off into retirement at some point. So when they initially approached me, I was pretty honest about that. I just said,
mhm,
if you're looking for someone to move up the ladder or grow with you from a leadership standpoint, that's not me. I am in a place where I really want to be an individual contributor, and I will contribute like nobody's business, but I want to, have control over my own destiny at this point. And they were great. They were like, terrific. Let's bring you in. So I started, loved it from the start. But right away I started to see things that, wow, if we could just do something like this, or if we could expand
mhm,
this way. And the reality was you can influence as much as you possibly can. And I think I'm a pretty good influencer. But to truly show how much you believe in something and that you really want to back it, you have to be willing to lead it and be the one
mm.
who says the buck stops with me because this was my idea. So when they said, would you consider moving into a leadership position? I said, absolutely. I also knew the people around me and how great they were going to be, and extremely, extremely glad that I made that decision and that I made it at this point in my career and with this group of people at this company.
Oh, I love that
Yeah.
story. I absolutely love that story. That's fantastic. Well, we have about just under a minute left.
Okay.
So I want to squeeze one more in because I'm sure you have some great insights here. What has driven you to continue to grow in your leadership roles?
Truly my team and
Mhm,
everything that I have learned from them and that they learned from each other. I really had to think about how do I help all of them become stronger leaders, because that's only going to help me. And that really, I say that honestly, and they'll come out and they'll listen to this at some point, but all of the growth that I've had in my 5 years at Pega has come from challenging myself and listening to the team around me for how can we all help each other be better. That's truly what it's been.
that was the perfect question to wrap up this amazing interview. These always fly by so fast.
Yeah, I'm shocked
Thank
it's
you.
10 minutes.
I know it go by too fast. I can't wait to learn more about you in the future. But until then, Lynn, thank you for allowing us to celebrate you as our Woman of the Week.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored and I'm excited to see you again and see more incredible women through this as well.
Yes, likewise. All right, community members, please comment below, share your insights, and definitely give Lynn high fives. It's not always easy doing these interviews and sharing, a little bit about your journey. So we appreciate Lynn for doing that and allowing us to celebrate her today. So until next time, have an amazing week.